Partially because some things about her remind me of my mother.
Yeah, I would have to say,
Her gentle spirit.
when she reads the
She's a lady.
Bible verses
She says, "I
before,
love her."
she sounds just like my grandmother.
Yeah.
Jimmy Burnett, he gave me my first job, outside of church. I worked for him at state ball games. Couldn't wait to get old enough to do it, and just, being around him and James, Mr. James worked out there too. I mean, it was just an extension of church out there. It was, you talk about a role model. I mean, you work for the man. You saw how, and there's decisions I make today in work that I think about some of the things he taught me.
I felt like my best friend was a role model. Rachel Burnett, I enjoyed her friendship more than anything. And Betty Middleton, they all were good inspirations and good characters. We had a good time together.
Memories that go on back when I was growing up, of course, my dad, his parents, who lived right here across the street, were heavily involved. Ransom Middleton and Ola Middleton. But back then, the preachers would come home for lunch with somebody every Sunday. And so I remember at times when we would have family lunches after church and the preachers would be there, or the preacher and his family would be there.
I think watching children grow up, the two of you, when I first started coming here, were not here. You were not even thought of yet.
Joanna was little tiny.
Yeah.
And Jackson was not even born yet either.
Yeah. So I've watched a lot of children grow up into adulthood, and that's an interesting thing to watch.
So if you count, it's been our great-grandparents, our grandparents, our parents, then it's our generation. And what's happening now is the future is,
Your children
I mean,
and
our
your
children,
grandchildren.
and then it'll be grandchildren.
Our children and soon to be grandchildren.
That's right.
Granddad.
So, that's right, granddad.
Sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great
It's all about eating.
Yeah, the food part of it. too.
That's
But when you
right.
think about it, when you say food, you think about
The
the
calories.
The calories.
Yeah, the
The
calories.
fat grams.
But you think about a homecoming. You
Oh my
walk, you go
gosh.
in there, and it would be just food. It's hard to explain how much food and good cooks, really good
7-layer
cooks.
chocolate cakes, Miss Dots on coconut cake. I mean, you could just name what cakes they were going to bring.
I know.
It was great.
And now feeding the homeless and those people who can't feed themselves. So nobody here will ever go hungry, I don't.
You always get a meal at
You
home.
could look at that.
My two older boys, Benny and Randy, and I attended here. I think my youngest son, David, was sick that Sunday, so my wife stayed home with him. But the three of us came here, and just by coincidence, we happened to hit homecoming Sunday. And of course, you know what homecoming's like here at Holland. And of course, we didn't bring anything, but at the end of the service, the folks were so friendly and said, "Oh, you must stay here and have a meal with us," and so forth. And at that time, the boys were teenagers or very close to that. And those of you that have teenagers know that at that age, boys especially will wear out the hinges on a refrigerator. It's all appetite. So they, of course, enjoyed all the good food, and of course I did too. I pigged out that day also.
When I was young, we always had, an annual picnic at Pullen Park. And of course, it's changed a lot since then, but I think that was the highlight for all the young people at that time. Families would have a big picnic basket to spread on the little island there, and in the meantime, the kids got to go play, swimming, that type thing.
We had box parties one time. You carried a box, whatever you wanted to do, and then person there chose whose box they wanted.
Oh, okay.
If they got your box, you had to eat with them.
Oh, okay.
That was real fun. That would
Yeah.
be fun now.
Yes, it would.
Mm-hmm.
It makes money.
So you put the food in the box?
Yeah, whatever you want to. You could have a cold plate or hot plate.
Uh-huh.
No, you couldn't. It didn't have to be something cold.
Uh-huh.
But that would be good now.
And you just put the boxes out and just pick a box?
Decorate the box, you know, make it real fancy looking so somebody will want it.
Uh-huh.
Because the more fancy it is, the easier it is to sell.
Right.
And they buy it.
Oh, okay.
So y'all could make some money like that.
That's a good idea.
Yes, ma'am.
My wife Julia died last November, and the support and the love and well, there just aren't enough adjectives in the English language to describe what I've witnessed and what I've felt. People have been just so good to me, and without that support, I'm sure I couldn't have gone through this nearly as well as I have. I've made the comment before, and it's true, although it's perhaps somewhat joking. At one time, I had a bushel of fried chicken in my downstairs refrigerator from what all the people had brought me. And I can't tell you how much lasagna I've eaten, and coffee cake, and stew, and roasts, and it was just amazing. Hardly a day went by that some car wasn't driving up into the driveway bringing something, and then all of the support and love and so forth that I've had. It's just been amazing.
I've been involved in the barbecue since high school, I guess.
I guess I helped in every barbecue, or almost every committee.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one I remember having was, we had it at the Garner High School, and it was when we were still on with the other churches. It was in 1947 or 8, somewhere along there, I think.
I can remember, and Ronnie can too, when we would go as a men's group and literally cut logs and trees in order to have a fuel source to cook the barbecue.
I've been doing those for 40-some years, and Lawrence Burnett, Jimmy Burnett, James Middleton, there were just so many. Furman Up Church that would play tricks on one another, and it was just, they always kept you laughing. I had a lot of fond memories of Jimmy, and the way he would be a clown a lot of times, and he just kept you laughing. And they would all tell old stories that before I was, old enough to do the barbecues, about things that went on, and they would just keep you laughing all the time. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
The pits at that time, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe they had that one pit in the back here.
Yeah, because that's where
Charlie
it started.
Sparks. Yeah, Charlie Sparks was the preacher.
It started with a pit actually dug in the ground back here, and they cooked the hog in the ground. So
Our grandfather and Mr. Leslie Rand
Mr. Pitt and
Lon Pitt.
what was it,
Both
T.I.?
But
Teddy, they actually started it.
Sold sandwiches. That
Sold
was
sandwiches.
Right, it wasn't what we know today.
And then, what was it, Hurricane Hazel, when that came through, the barbecue was scheduled, and so obviously the hurricane came through and there was all kinds of destruction. And then they just fed the community free because they had cooked the barbecue and everything, so they just fed the community. The barbecue is just a big part, I think, in maybe even part of the growth of this church, and it has brought people into this church, and then how it brings people together to work and for such a good cause, and everybody works together, and people, it's just a big time of fellowship, and what it does, it exposes this church to the community, and the memories of that, especially, with the history of our family and the barbecue and how it started, and to keep that legacy running, and, we inherited that. This whole church inherited that. And, it's up to us to be good stewards of that and keep that tradition alive.
My soul, my Savior God to thee. How great.
I can't help but think about our daddy always saying, without the children, there is no future of the church.
Find someone that you would like to, your life to be like, and follow them. We got plenty of them in this church.
Don't forget how this church began and how people sacrificed to make it what it is today. I know our parents and grandparents and people in the neighborhood sacrificed a lot back years ago, especially because nobody was really making that much money. We were, builders, carpenters, farmers, and we were simple people, and we got to remember where our roots came from.
And for the youth to hang out with these adults, these older people, I wouldn't trade anything in the world for getting to know, the older people in the church. Miss Lydia Franks,
Martha Hobby.
sitting and talking with them, and
Going to play tennis with Louis Shepherd.
the children need to do that now. Yeah, it's great to sit down and play video games, but go see these people.
Having the foundation when I was growing up, you were at church every Sunday. That was part of life, and I'm glad for that because that set my foundation for my whole life. And it's just a great place to be involved, friends and family, and the missions that we do. It's just a very good place to be a part of.
Get involved with the church. Again, there's so many groups and missionaries that if one doesn't work well for you, you find something that makes you click, that you have passion in. So that's my advice to the younger generation here.
Just walk with the Lord and don't be tempted by the bad. We have some very good teenagers in our church, and I think they are growing every day because we've made it worth their while.
I would encourage them to be mindful of their passions. What are those things that that get you most excited about ministry, that get you most excited about being a follower of Jesus? And then taking that passion and finding a way of plugging it in here, of living it out in the context of this congregation.
Claim the values of those who have gone on before you at this church. Look up to them, learn from them, follow in their footsteps, and as you do so, you will ultimately claim Jesus Christ as Lord of your life.
And then proclaim